Okay, let's get back on that scavenger hunt. And now I'm going to talk to you about space. I'm going to kind of get this out of order. I told you that actually the shapes were not as, how do I say, noticeable, could be a good word. The shapes are not in an abundance. I'll put it that way in this picture. And that it could be that yours isn't either, or maybe yours has a great amount of that, but you just don't have any textures. Well, you've got shapes, textures, colors, and space. You just choose three of those. And so you will have three that you could actually write on. It's all unique to the pictures. On spaces, it's what is not in the picture that you're trying to form shapes from. So when they say space, they're talking about a void. You know, when you look out in space, there's nothing. It's void. It's nothingness. When you look at all of these things and here, the ground and the cement and all that, those are void spaces. Those are not used, but these where bodies, animals, shapes are actually where you can see them, those are not considered space. So it's actually used space. So what I did that I found so interesting, I looked at the top and really that's a little square, that's a little square, this is a rectangle. I'm not sure what I had there. I probably, I kind of covered it up and I can't click on it without going out. Okay, see the sky here on each side of the building? I would call that a square. That's a rectangle. And again, I got in the way over here. You can look at the picture and find it. Here's a rectangle here. And I'd probably say two squares there, a circle there. So if you work at the top, work down, you can probably notice more of them. I didn't put this, I could put it in the paragraph, but the shape, well, no, because I can't do it. It's on her. But I did point out the space between her legs, between her lower calf, almost to her shin. That is a triangle. Okay. I'm going to leave this one out because that was an organic shape. So I'm going to leave that out. And when I look at her arm that is out and I go back in and I go back up, that is a triangle. Okay. Then I look at the field and I see a V between his legs there. I see her with a 90-degree angle and I see a little arc there. I see a straight line there. So I can go all across here and show you, see where he's got his legs separated? That is called space, and it looks like an arc. Looks like there are a lot of arcs in here. There's an arc here, and I left that one out. There's an arc there. That almost looks like a bow on a bow and arrow. Which that's interesting. Here we have, it looks like a triangle. I don't think I put that on there. But there, go through and find everything when you're talking about space. It's the shapes you could make from a place where there are no shapes in the picture. Okay. So you have to use your imagination here. I suppose I could have put rectangle there and a square here. Oh goodness. Okay. I mean, this is not an exhaustive list, but it's a lot. I went down here also because these are actual shapes. But if I were to use the void there and take that out, it would almost look like footprints. I don't know. You might not want to use that. But this is another one that I found interesting, that if you use the curb and you come down to here, oh, it almost looks like it's a triangle, but it's not because it's rounded there. But it still does form that. She's got, looks like a triangle here, The shadow forms something on there. It almost looks like a pole, but I couldn't figure out what it was. But that's a void space. He's not standing on it. He's using his space, but he's not using this space in between his legs. Okay, so look at shapes and patterns that people make from just walking or standing. And then actually there is an oval or cone over on this side. So you're looking for blank spaces. I mean, does this form something? Uh, I no, I just thought there were other ones that I wanted to use, but the couple, I thought about this one, but I didn't use it. They've got a triangle there too. So it's just interesting to see the shapes that are formed there. So let's go to what I wrote. And this is what you would write if spaces is one of your observations. Beginning at the top of the photograph, void spaces created by the sky actually form several geometric patterns such as squares, triangles, and rectangles. The girl with the sweater wrapped around her waist forms an upside down V between her two lower calves, while the man to her left forms an arc, should be an arc, not and arc, in the space between his legs. Way in the background, the space between another man's legs forms an arc as well. On the far right, the empty space between the man's legs forms an arc. Looking further back at the trees, the top limbs form triangles. In the foreground, feet within the victim's head are shapes. It should be of two unidentified objects, and even the space on the sidewalk between the body and the curb forms an imperfect triangle with a rounded point. You know, I would take this part out. Okay, further back at the trees in the foreground. Are two unidentified flying objects, not really unidentified, which if let's say would form an interesting pattern in the concrete or in the space they are on. Then I'm going to say even the space. Oops. Okay, so let me try this again. Okay, so in the foreground, feet within the victim's head are two unidentified objects, which, if holes, in other words, if they were holes shaped like that, would form an interesting pattern in the space they are in. Even the space on the sidewalk between the body and the curb forms an imperfect triangle with a rounded point. All right. So these are the things that I expect in each one of your paragraphs. You're going to have to do some real, because you've got until Friday to turn in your rough draft. I do some very, very in-depth looking. And if I were you, I would utilize my partners, see what they say. They'll see what you say, put them all together. I don't mind you sharing them. You just can't quote each other word for word. Okay. So this, and in this section for observations, you will not be using your works cited. That's only for the first two sections that you've already turned in. Okay, so let's get back on that scavenger hunt and find those other ones.